My niece had just unwrapped the dollhouse when my sister raised her wine glass and smiled that smile. "Claire's still playing house with her cats." The room laughed. Soft at first, then louder when no one stopped it. I stood by the window holding a paper plate of cake I no longer wanted. My sister Lauren stood by the table flushed from the Chardonnay, perfectly composed in that way she always was when she had an audience. My mother Marianne looked down at her napkin. My cousin Josh chuckled into his drink. No one said anything. It wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the worst. But it was the moment the front door opened. And in walked Michael, my partner of almost 2 years, holding our daughter in his arms, still warm from her nap, her curls messy and her stuffed elephant half tucked beneath her chin. He scanned the room, eyes calm and clear. Then he looked at me. "She woke up asking for you," he said. And Lily, 3 years old, still blinking the sleep from her eyes, smiled, reached her arms out, and said it like it had always been true. "Mommy." The room fell silent. I used to think I was imagining it. The way Lauren's voice would lift slightly whenever she talked about me. The way she'd say my name when telling stories like a punchline only she understood. It started small, harmless almost. At a family dinner 3 years ago, she leaned across the table and said, "So Claire, are you still living with your cats, or did you finally get a boyfriend with a pulse?" People laughed. I did too. It was easier that way. At Thanksgiving, when I brought a homemade cranberry tart, she said, "Wow, all that effort for just you and the whiskered roommates." Even my brother Evan chuckled. He whispered later, "She doesn't mean anything by it. She's just being Lauren." That was the problem. Lauren had always been just being Lauren. She got married young 22 and had 3 kids before 30. She stayed home, drove the minivan, hosted every holiday like it was a performance. I respected that. I really did. But somehow my choices made her uncomfortable, like my single, quiet life was a commentary on hers. I never said a word, not even when she started using that line like a slogan. "Claire's still playing house." She'd say it when I talked about repainting my kitchen when I posted pictures of my Sunday dinners on Instagram. Playing house became her way of saying I didn't have a real life, just an imitation. And slowly it caught on. At my cousin Josh's wedding, I arrived alone. Mom smiled tightly and said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. Not everyone's meant to settle down." Aunt Janine added, "Besides, you've got those cats right." They meant well. That's what I told myself. But meaning well doesn't make it hurt less. I stopped talking about my life. About the little joys, buying fresh flowers, planning meals, redoing my patio. Every time I shared something, it felt like a setup for a joke I didn't write. The worst part wasn't Lauren. It was the silence of everyone else. People think cruelty is loud, but the kind I lived with it was quiet. Muted chuckles, shrugs, a quick glance down at a plate when things got uncomfortable. I remember one Christmas I brought a beautifully wrapped gift for Lauren's youngest. I'd spent weeks picking it out. As he opened it, Lauren leaned toward me and said not softly, "You know it's kind of sad. All this love and no one to share it with." I smiled, took a sip of wine, and didn't come home the next year. Mom called me selfish, said I was overreacting. Family teases Claire. That's just how we are. But it didn't feel like teasing. It felt like erasure. I don't remember when I stopped expecting anyone to ask how I really was. At some point, I realized I could be in a room full of people I'd known all my life and still feel invisible. So I built a life outside those rooms. A quiet one, a careful one. No announcements, no explanations. Just weekends in Denver. Then longer stays. Then packing my things into boxes while 2 small hands helped tape the corners. Lauren never knew. No one did. And now, standing in her living room with her friends and decorations and curated perfection, my daughter had just called me Mommy, and Lauren didn't even know her name. I met Michael Bennett at a marketing conference in Denver. He was there representing a small tech firm. I was speaking on a panel about digital storytelling. We ended up at the same table during a post-session lunch, 2 people exhausted from too much networking, quietly grateful for shared silence. He wasn't flirtatious. He didn't ask where I lived or if I was single. He asked if I liked the chicken. And then somewhere between awkward jokes and bad coffee, he told me about Lily, his daughter. She was 2.5 at the time. He said it like a confession, not a brag. Like he wanted to make sure I understood who came first. "She's Everything he said quietly. Her mom left when she was 18 months, walked out one morning and never came back. I didn't ask questions, I just listened. Later, he showed me a photo, a toddler with wild curls covered in spaghetti sauce, grinning without a single front tooth. She was wearing mismatched socks and hugging a stuffed elephant so tightly it looked squished. She calls it jelly, he said, laughing softly. Don't ask. That laugh stayed with me. We started seeing each other slowly, carefully. We met for coffee when Lily was with his mom, had dinner after she'd gone to bed. We talked about everything except the future because neither of us wanted to risk the present. It was 3 months before I met Lily. Michael planned it like a military operation. Children's museum. Saturday morning, neutral territory. I wore jeans and a sweatshirt. I was terrified. Lily clung to his leg, at first peeking at me like I was a stranger on her sidewalk. I waved gently and squatted down to her level. I like your socks, I said. They were pink with tiny whales. She didn't respond. But when we reached the pretend grocery store exhibit and I asked her to help me shop, she handed me a plastic banana without a word. By the end of the hour, she was holding my hand. We sat on a bench eating peanut butter crackers and she pointed to a bird outside the window. That's a robin, she said. They're the ones that come back. I didn't know what to say. Michael smiled beside me, his arm behind her on the bench, his eyes soft. She's memorized half the bird book we read at night. We began spending time together as a trio. I learned how to braid her curls, how she liked her sandwiches, cut triangles, never squares, and that Jelly the elephant had to be tucked in first at bedtime or she couldn't sleep. The first time she fell asleep in my arms was during a movie. Michael was doing dishes. I didn't move, not even when my foot went numb. Her breath was warm against my neck. I remember thinking, I hope she stays here forever. One night, after a thunderstorm woke her crying. Michael was in the shower. I went in and found her curled up hugging her knees. I sat beside her, rubbed her back, whispered that it was just the sky talking. She crawled into my lap and whispered, "Thank you, Mama Claire." She fell asleep like that. I didn't. When Michael came out and saw us, he didn't speak, just sat beside us and touched her hair. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure what I was feeling. A week later, we talked about the future. Michael told me Lily's mother had legally relinquished her parental rights. There would be no custody battle, no visits, no interference. If we ever got married, he said, and if you wanted to adopt her, we could make that real. I didn't need time to think. She already feels real to me, I said. It started as Mama Claire. Lily said it one evening as I helped her brush her teeth. Can Mama Claire read me the bunny book tonight? Michael paused in the hallway. I looked at him. He looked at me. Neither of us said a word. I didn't correct her. The name stuck. She used it for 2 months. It was hers, not ours. A name she built from her own little logic. And then, one Thursday evening, everything shifted. We were having dinner. Lily was wearing one of Michael's old t-shirts as pajamas, sitting cross-legged at the table, her curls a mess from bath time. She held out the ketchup bottle and said matter-of-factly, "Mommy, can you open this?" I almost didn't hear it. Michael did. He froze. Fork in midair. I looked at her. She wasn't even thinking about it, just eating chicken nuggets and humming to herself like it was the most normal thing in the world. "What did you call me?" I asked gently. She looked up confused. "Mommy," she said again. "You are." She didn't smile when she said it. Didn't check to see if it was okay. She just knew. That night, as I tucked her into bed, I asked one more time. "You're really okay calling me that?" Lily frowned. "Why wouldn't I be?" She touched my small fingers over mine. "You help me with my tangles. You sing the not good songs. You make my toast right. You always know where Jelly is." She paused. "That's what mommies do right." I nodded, not trusting my voice. After she fell asleep, I stood by the doorway watching her chest rise and fall. Michael came up behind me and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded again. But in my chest, something ached. Not from pain. From knowing that I had become something I'd never even dared to wish for. She was mine. Not through blood, not through ceremony, just through every lunch packed, every nightmare soothed. Every morning she called my name instead of anyone else's. She didn't need proof. And maybe for the first time in my life, neither did I. We didn't tell my family. Not when I moved in. Not when Lily started calling me mommy. Not even when Michael and I started looking at rings. It wasn't secrecy out of shame. It was protection. From the noise, from the opinions, from the jokes I could already hear forming in my sister's mouth. Michael understood. He never pushed. "I know what you're carrying," he said once. "You don't owe anyone an announcement." But I wanted Lily to know she was safe before I invited in people who might not see her clearly. Still, silence has an expiration date. So when Emma's birthday rolled around, my niece Lauren's oldest, we started talking about showing up as a family. It would be casual. A backyard party. Kids running around. Less pressure than a holiday dinner or a sit-down meal. Michael had the idea. "You go first," he said, smiling like it was a dare. "See what they say. Then Lily and I will come in if she's feeling up to it." I hesitated. What if she calls me mommy in front of them? What if someone laughs? Michael reached across the table, took my hand. "Then they'll see the truth, and they'll either respect it or reveal themselves." I nodded. Slowly. We spent the night before the party prepping Lily's yellow dress. She insisted on picking her own ribbons. I braided her hair into loose pigtails and packed jelly in her small bag just in case. The next morning she had a slight cough. Nothing serious, but enough to let her nap through the early part of the afternoon. As I got ready, she sat up in bed and asked, "Is it the princess party today?" "Yes, baby. I'll go first. Daddy will bring you later." She frowned. "Can I bring the doll for Emma's house?" I smiled. "Of course." And with that, I kissed her forehead, tucked her back in, and walked out the door, carrying a secret the size of a family. Lauren's house smelled like frosting and fruit punch. Pink balloons floated above folding chairs. A giant inflatable castle sagged in the backyard, half deflated in the spring sun. There were cupcakes arranged in the shape of a crown and glitter glued onto plastic wands. It was all very Lauren. I arrived with a carefully wrapped box, a Victorian-style dollhouse I'd spent weeks choosing. Inside were tiny furniture sets, a clawfoot tub, and 2 hand-painted cats curled up on miniature rugs. Emma squealed when she opened it. "Aunt Claire, it's perfect!" She ran her fingers along the tiny staircase, already imagining stories. For a moment, the room hushed, just the soft sounds of a child discovering joy. Then Lauren picked up her wine glass. "Well," she said, her voice sweet enough to curdle cream, "looks like Aunt Claire is still playing house." A few cousins laughed, awkward, unsure. Lauren wasn't done. First it was pretend kitchens, then Thanksgiving for one. Now a full dollhouse for a pretend family. I didn't answer. I never did. Mom looked down at her plate. Dad cleared his throat. No one said my name. Lauren sipped her wine like she'd earned the moment. "At least Emma can use the house now, since you never did." I placed the lid gently on the empty gift box and smiled. "I'm glad she likes it." I walked into the kitchen, not because I needed anything, but because I needed space. Behind me, the conversation continued soft, then rising again, like nothing happened. Like it was normal. It had become normal. This was how they talked about me. Around me. Through me. I stood by the sink watching the backyard fill with kids. Parents holding juice boxes. Someone starting music on a Bluetooth speaker. Normal. I checked my phone. 3:42 p.m. Lily usually woke from her nap by 4. A text from Michael blinked on the screen. "She's awake. Feeling good. Want us to come?" I hesitated. My fingers hovered. Then I typed, "Yes. Time." I didn't tell anyone. Just walked back into the living room, sat on the arm of a chair, and listened to Lauren tell a story about potty training her twins. She glanced at me once, smiled. "You know how it is," she said. "Oh, wait. No, you don't." The room chuckled. Not loudly, but enough. That's when I heard the front gate click, and footsteps, tiny ones, and the silence that followed. That wasn't planned. It just happened. The front door opened. Michael stepped inside, holding Lily on his hip. Her curls were pulled into soft pigtails, and she was still rubbing sleep from her eyes. Jelly the elephant dangled from one hand. He looked around the room at the balloons, the cupcakes, the crowd of familiar faces frozen mid-bite. "Sorry we're late," he said easily. Someone needed her beauty sleep. No one moved. Then Lily blinked, saw me and smiled. Her arms shot forward. "Mommy!" She squirmed down from Michael's arms and ran straight across the room past Lauren, past Emma's unopened gifts, right into mine. I knelt to catch her. "Hey, baby girl," I whispered. "Did you have a good nap?" She nodded against my shoulder. Silence pulsed in the room like a held breath. Michael came closer, rested his hand on my back, and turned to my parents. "Hi, I'm Michael, and this is Lily." He smiled with the calm certainty of someone who wasn't there to prove anything. "Claire's told us so much about you." No one spoke. Then behind me, I heard Lauren's voice, tight now. "Claire, can we talk?" I stood up slowly, Lily still on my hip. "Actually," I said, "I think you should hear this too." Michael reached into his jacket pocket. A small, velvet box. He didn't get down on one knee. He didn't need to. "Claire," he said, his voice steady, "you've made our little family whole. Lily loves you like you've always been her mom, and I do too." He opened the box. "Will you marry us?" The room didn't breathe. And then Lily whispered, "Say yes, Mommy." I looked at her, at Michael, at everyone who'd ever laughed at my life and called it pretend. "Yes," I said. "Of course, yes." Michael slipped the ring on my finger, and in that moment, no one laughed. Not even Lauren. After the congratulations. After the hugs that came a little too late. After Lily dragged Emma toward the dollhouse and Michael ended up sitting cross-legged on the carpet helping them set the tiny dinner table, Lauren pulled me aside. Into the hallway, past the coats and the dusty family photos. She didn't speak at first. Her face was pale. Lipstick faded. Eyes uncertain. "Claire," she said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me I looked at her? Would you have listened?" She flinched, then exhaled. "I thought you were alone. I thought you were pretending, like a kid playing dress-up. And I guess that made me feel—" She stopped herself. "Small," I said for her. "Because I didn't choose the same life you did." Lauren nodded. Slowly. "I didn't know how much I was hurting you." I leaned back against the wall. "You didn't need to. You had everyone laughing with you." A long pause. Outside, Lily squealed something about the tiny bathtub, and Michael's low laugh followed. "I'm sorry," Lauren whispered. "Really?" I believed her, but I didn't soften. This isn't about being even, or making peace. This is about understanding what's off limits from now on. She looked up. Meaning Lily hears everything, and she's watching. "If you ever make her feel like less than family even once we're done." Lauren swallowed hard, then nodded. "Okay." I turned to go, then stopped. "And Lauren." She glanced up. "You were right. I was playing house. I was learning how to love without conditions, and how to let someone call me mommy because I earned it. So no," I said softly. "We don't go backward. It's been 3 months since the party. Michael and I got married in my parents' backyard under the oak tree I used to climb as a kid. Lily wore a yellow dress and carried our rings in a basket full of petals. She insisted Mr. Jelly be in the pictures. He was. So were Whiskers and Clover, tucked neatly into the corner of one group shot, looking mildly unimpressed. Lily's adoption went through last week. She signed the final paper with a crayon and announced to the room, "Now we all match." She was right. Lauren came to the wedding, quiet, respectful. She brought a book for Lily called Families Are All Different and asked gently if she could start fresh. We said yes, carefully. Mom teaches Lily how to make pot roast. Dad shows her how to check tire pressure. They don't ask why I never told them sooner. They just show up. And that's enough. Tonight, Lily fell asleep on the couch between us, one hand in mine, the other on Michael's sleeve. Jelly tucked beneath her chin. I stood for a long time at the doorway, watching the soft rise and fall of her breath. Michael asked, "You okay?" I nodded. "I'm just thinking," I said, "about all the times they said I was playing house." He smiled, didn't say a word. I reached down and pulled the little blanket higher over Lily's shoulders. The living room was quiet, the lights warm, and behind us on the shelf sat a tiny pink tea set from the dollhouse. I wasn't playing. I was building something real.